Hello everyone. You might have seen this picture n number of times in the recent era, right? This is about a land dispute issue of University of Hyderabad raising several ecological concerns. Let us understand this issue in detail. First, let us have some kind of a background of this land. Let us understand about what are the present challenges and what is the way forward such kind of things, right? Okay. So, way back in 1975, the then Andhra Pradesh government was instructed by the central government under the Indira Gandhi leadership that allocate a certain piece of land for University of Hyderabad. Accordingly, along the outskirts of then Hyderabad in 1975, a decent amount of land was allotted. But there were several kind of land record disputes. Nobody has imagined that the city would progress in that level, in that part of the city, which leads to one of the present costliest area as of now, right? So there is some sense of poor land record maintenance, right? So what happened was there was not proper demarcation of land records. Because of these things, a certain section of the land was always under dispute. Back then in 2004, the then government under Chandrababu Naidu, they have allocated a certain piece of land to a sports development agency. Later on, this same land of this 400 acres was disputed by the then government under Rajshekar Reddy government in 2006, saying that this piece of land has been fraudulently given to this particular sports consultant agency. Whatever, this land was under dispute, and it is going with respect to the Supreme Court judgment since then. Later on, finally, in the last few years, this government has taken a special impact of this and tried to settle this issue and use this land for various things. Now, whatever this land record, legal complication, all these kind of things, one thing is very clear. A land was allotted to a University of Hyderabad, and now in the present era, if you see this area called as Gachibowli and the other surrounding areas, it has turned into a concrete jungle. This is one of the costliest area, creating even infrastructure. This is one of the costliest area in terms of the cost. At the same time, this is also a very important area for economic development, be it in terms of well-developed IT parks and all these kind of things surrounding the University of Hyderabad. So it is almost part of the financial district, which happens to be a highly economically important thing, not just for the state alone, but also for the country. In this process, there is a good patch of land which is having several ecological benefits. It's a good, beautiful, almost a virtual forest area with a variety of wild animals, plants, water bodies, and all these kind of things. And whenever you study in UPSC, for UPSC, you will always see in the newspapers, right? You will see about the lands being encroached, the lakes being encroached. You would see that cities are turning into concrete jungles. You would see that there is no space for greenery across the city and all these kind of things. This is one such perfect example where you can say that with the complexities of land, with the need for economic growth and lack of due regard for environmental things, you always see that environment taking a backseat, right? Here also, it is a classic case of environment taking a backseat. So because of these things, there are so many kind of challenges. On one side, the ecologists argue that this is a center of beautiful rock formations where we see some mushroom rocks. There are some decent lakes here, and at the same time, you also find a variety of wild animals, be it peacocks, deers, and all these kind of things in this part of the land. So if you have an aerial view of this area, this is one such green area amidst the concrete jungles. Now, when we talk about urban flooding, the first thing we always talk about is the need for green spaces. So, on one side, we talk about the need for green spaces. On another side, we are using the same land for economic development, for IT parks, and all these kind of things. Can't we have a proper structure of these kind of things? Can't we have a proper rule in place where for every certain acres of land, there has to be certain acres of land in a certain ratio meant for ecological purposes? In that way, we are getting the benefits of environment and all. Do you want Hyderabad to be turned into a another kind of a pollution center where you cannot able to breathe the air properly? This area is regarded as a lung house because of the nature of the extent of the amount of greenery which we have. Even some of the ecologists call for giving it a at least a wildlife sanctuary status because of the amount of wildlife which we find here. So all these kind of things raise a major issue in our country. You know what? The priorities of the government. The priorities of the government, or be it the political pressures, you never see environmental giving due regard. This is one of the major error in terms of our policies, right? So what is the way forward for such kind of things? See, ultimately, why do you think that the government needs land? The government needs land for what? They needs land for economic development. They're auctioning this land, and as part of the auction, they get a huge amount of money, which will increase the revenue for the government for a certain year. This is a short-term benefit. At what cost, right? So definitely, this issue highlights some of the challenges. What is the challenge? The disregard for environment. Number two, you'll also see that why do you think that the government always try to auction certain land? It is a norm across governments, across states, across the entire part of the country. Why? The simple reason, it will increase the revenue, and this land is allotted for various industrial purposes and all these kind of things. One of the thing the policy planners has to understand is, if you take a city like Hyderabad, it has so many varieties of places which can be used for overall development of that region, be it the defense land and all these kind of things. Basically here, a certain section which is regarded as a green area, you cannot use this for economic development, and giving the name for economic growth and all these kind of things. You cannot take an environmental backseat. This is number one. Number two, which we need to also understand is, the political parties need to get a consensus mode. Everyone is looking for some kind of a mileage of an issue, right? If you see all the political parties across the state parties or the central parties, you'll always see that they have their own agendas. The public interest is never the actual agenda. Under the name of the public interest, they always have their vested interest, right? So it is high time that people like us, including you, me, and all of us, should come together and call for proper policy action so that overall the country is benefited, be it in terms of economic growth and at the same time environmental protection. I will tell you one thing. What can this government do is, there is the central government and the state government should come into a consensus, and there is so much amount of vacant government land, be it in terms of the railway land or be it in terms of the defense land. They can use such kind of land for commercial purposes, for economic growth, and giving all these kind of things for new projects. And at the same time, you can also see that and at the same time, you can also call for a proper long term policy in terms of auctioning the land, be it for economic growth. The thing is, if there is a will, the governments can actually do it. Unfortunately, they don't have the will. Why? Very simple. This 400 acres of land is part of a larger area of Hyderabad which has severe economic growth. So, because of this high economic growth, the land cost is very, very high. Naturally, the governments, or for that matter, the political parties, can increase their coffers, can increase their bank balances, which are needed for their own necessities, right? So, this is the whole complexity. It all comes down to the priorities of the government and the way we pressure the government to get the things done in a certain way. This is what the issue is all about. I hope you all have understood this topic, and I want you guys to properly analyze this thing so that you are getting to a proper perspective of this whole issue. Thank you very much. Do let me know what have you observed in the comment section about this whole issue.